obviously, since it was St. Patrick's Day, we're going to focus on Irish and Scottish music, all that kind of good stuff. So Celtic music, I never know, is it Celtic or Celtic? You let me know. I guess it's kind of hard to write that out. I say it both ways, whatever works, I guess. So obviously that means any kind of music that was originated from countries of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and most of it is oral tradition. A lot of it wasn't written down for a very long time, so it's pretty interesting. You have a lot of history that's pretty complicated about, well, when did this particular song appear in this songbook, or did this composer write that? We still don't really know who wrote Danny Boy. If you check out my video on my music musings on that, I'm not going to do that one today since that's already on my channel. You can check that out. But we still don't really know who wrote that. It apparently was some violinist on a street corner somewhere, and someone heard it and wrote it down. So there's a lot of situations where we don't know who the composer was, which is kind of sad in a way. The instruments that were used for that kind of music, often you'd have the harp, right? That's a really popular one. Irish fiddling, that kind of thing. Piano isn't necessarily sort of an Irish instrument. But the harp actually might have originated, we think, in Egypt, which is kind of cool. The traditional Irish harp, that is. And what happened is a lot of harpists were professional musicians hired by the chieftains in Ireland and Scotland and stuff. And what happened was after 1607, the flight of the earls, a lot of the chieftains fled. And what happened was then the harpists were kind of out of a job because they were like, well, these guys left, we're not getting paid, what are we going to do? So they eventually started traveling more. So you had a lot of early harp music. And that's, I think, maybe this is just my theory, maybe that's one reason why the harps were smaller, since they had to travel with them. You think about a traditional orchestral harp, those people were always the last to get out of the concert hall, right? So they got the huge harp there, they have to put it on wheels and everything like that. So anyway, so harps were pretty essential in early Celtic music. The first collection that we know of Celtic music was in 1762, apparently. And there was sort of a revival of that kind of music in the 1920s when recordings of traditional music were taken for the first time and made available to the Irish living abroad. So a lot of interesting history there. Like I said, it's very complicated. I'm going to start with The Last Rose of Summer, which is one of my favorite tunes. I think the ones we'll go through, Last Rose of Summer, and then, can you believe it, Beethoven wrote some Irish music? What? Beethoven was German. Get out of here. Minstrel Boy, Simple Gifts, Loch Lomond. We got a lot of great stuff tonight. So I might do a little bit more playing than talking, but we'll see how it goes because I like to talk. Alrighty, so very good. The Last Rose of Summer. I'll just play through it first. I'm not going to say the text. I'm just going to play the melody for you. This particular version's in E flat major. I've got a lot of notes on here. There's sort of four main phrases. You sort of have A, B, A, and we'll talk a little bit more about the form. But just this is another one that has, it's sort of a complicated history here. It was written, the text was written by Thomas Moore, who you probably might recognize that, and the tune itself was actually from a song called The Groves of Blarney. Very similar to Last Rose of Summer. So he took that tune, and again, we don't really know where that originated from. It was sort of an older air. Originally might have been a variation on a song called The Young Man's Dream. So it's just, there's a lot of complicated history there, and some of the tunes were very similar. So is it a variation, or is it just someone heard it and they said, well, I'm going to take that and run with it and do something unusual with it. So the first time the Groves of the Blarney actually appeared in print was in 1806, and it's from Holden's collection of old established Irish slow airs. Book 1. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so 1806, that's you know, quite a whiles after probably that it was actually going through and being performed by harpists and singers and possibly violinists as well. And then 1813, Moore's, he wrote, I think a collection of songs, and in the fifth number were his Irish melodies. So he wrote a lot of different stuff, but he wrote the text for The Last Rose of Summer. And let's look at the text, at least for a few of the verses. The last rose of summer left blooming alone. All her lovely companions are faded and gone. No flower of her kindred, no rosebud is nigh, to refleet back her blushes, or give sigh for sigh. I leave thee, thou alone, to pine on the stem. Since the lovely are sleeping, go sleep thou with them. Thus kindly I'll scatter thy leaves o'er the bed, where my mates of the garden lie scentless and dead. So soon may I follow them when friendships decay, and from love's shining circle the gems drop away. When true hearts lie withered and fond ones are flown, oh, who would inhabit this bleak world alone? Quite a lovely poem, I think. What do you think that's about? Obviously it has to do with a rose, and it's the last rose of summer, it's faded. Toss your ideas out there. Jake sees, Jen, do you know if it was played in the movie Rudy? Absolutely, yes. That was a very, it was a wonderful use of that, I think, in that movie, the movie Rudy. Very good comment, yes. I think you already knew the answer to that when you asked that, right, Jake C? Yeah, it is a sad little song, Gene. Yeah, and what's interesting is that it's not in a minor key. There's one spot where it does go to minor. We'll look at that in a second, but it's mainly in E flat major. And it doesn't really seem to go anywhere. It starts on the tonic, E flat, right? And then the high note is on the tonic. 'Tis the last rose of summer, left the blooming alone. A little bit of variation in the rhythm, not much. A little bit of syncopation, left the blooming alone. I personally don't think it's that easy to sing because it's a little awkward. 'Tis the last rose of summer, left blooming alone. The blooming has too many notes in it. Blooming alone. So I don't think it's the best melody to sing. No offense to Thomas Moore for putting it together. I like the melody better than the way the words fit together. I think he's the last surviving of his friends. Ooh, I like that. That could be very well true. Yeah. And he talks about friendship, and he talks about when true hearts are lying withered and fond ones are flown, who would inhabit this bleak world alone? So, yeah, there's sort of a loneliness to that. Yeah, it's doleful. Maybe simply strangely looking forward to join them. Possibly, yeah. And we'll see this as a theme in a lot of this music, is that even though the text is somewhat sad, the music itself is maybe in a major key or doesn't seem all that sad by itself. Let's look at the one spot where it does go to minor. No flower of her kindred, no rose. Little C minor, right? A little pulls at your heartstrings. Rosebud is gone. And that's really the climax of the piece, right? It's the middle of the piece before we go back to the A phrase. To refleet back her blushes, or give sigh for sigh. So I think I like those interpretations. This is why I like doing these live streams. Is it? No, it's not St. Thomas More. Different Thomas More. Yes. Good question. So it's a delightful little melody in a way, but very simple. Not a whole lot of harmonic action here. We have one chords, we have four chords, we have five chords, and one chords. The most interesting one is, of course, when it goes to C minor. So when we do go to that minor, since it's been such normal, or not normal, typical, I guess, tonal textures, we do go to C minor. It's like, oh wow, it really hits us. Like that's sad. So I think that's one reason why it really hits us as perhaps more of a sad song, because the climax is in a minor key. So that's The Last Rose of Summer. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to comment on about that one. Now, this piece was actually used by a lot of different composers. Mendelssohn, Copland used it. Beethoven used this tune. Isn't that really interesting? So there's an interesting story behind this. I'm using the word interesting too much, aren't I? That's interesting. Beethoven wrote, I think, 2 different sets. There's one set of songs, it's 20 different Irish songs. There's another one that's 21 Irish songs. The one we're going to take a look at, just briefly, is from, oh, this is front and back here. It's from Woo 153. So Woo is not a funny word. It's works without opus. But if you say that, like you say opus number, you say Woo. It's Woo 153, like Woo. Works without opus number. So they're not in the opus collection. But he did write them, he was commissioned to write them, interestingly, by a folk song collector. So there must have been some people that were actually trying to put together folk songs in collections. His name was George Thompson, and he actually commissioned Beethoven. He commissioned Beethoven between the years of 1810 and 1813 to arrange some Irish melodies, and this was one of them. And he wanted Thomas Moore actually to write a new text for it, but apparently he turned him down. Wah, wah, wah. And so Thompson added the lyrics afterwards, and they published in 1814 in a select collection of Irish original airs, and then reissued as Thompson's Select Melodies of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. So these got published in different places. So I think it was helpful to have them all together in compilations. Excuse me. And you'll see that often within today, you know, if there's pop music or things like that, it'll be like, you know, songs from the 80s, songs from the 90s, or that kind of thing, those collections. Your favorite blues songs or things like that. Or I think so there's earlier versions of that kind of idea, even back to the 1800s, which I think is actually kind of cool. So it uses the same tune, and it's actually written for violin, cello, piano, and voice. Obviously, I can't play all of those at the same time, but I'll give you a taste of what the piano part's like. And this is the text. Sad and luckless was the season when to court fair Ellen flew from love and peace and reason, worlds to see of promise new. Back she comes, each grace is finer, every charm that crowds adore, all the form divine, diviner, but the heart is there no more. Sounds like something bad happened there. And it goes on about that. So the lover is named Ellen, it seems like, and apparently she just, guess she left the guy. Kind of sad. So Thomas Moore was writing about, maybe it was one of his girlfriends. I don't know. But it's kind of weird because it's a sad text, right? Let's see what Beethoven does. I'm sight reading this, so forgive me here. This is the intro. You can hear it's pretty much the same melody. So there you go. Beethoven had a wee bit of Irish in him after all. So I think that's pretty interesting. Check out his other ones if you have a few moments. They've got some great recordings on YouTube of some of the other tunes. So it's over 40 different Irish melodies he put together, and there's definitely more depth to them than just simple here's your chord, here's your melody. So it's worth hearing what Beethoven does with those. So check that out if you have a free moment. Alrighty, let me make sure I don't have any comments here. Woohoo! Oh, someone was commenting on the woos. Woohoo! Yes, that was pretty funny. Let's see. Another one that Thomas Moore wrote the text for is the Minstrel Boy. And this one's interesting because it was sung by a lot of the Irish who fought in the American Civil War, and World War One. Kudos to Beethoven. Yes, absolutely. It's another old Irish air that was used. And again, you wonder, like, was this just something that they heard, played? We don't know. As far as we know, it's not. I don't have a record of which book it was published in, but it's set to the melody of the Maureen, which is an old Irish air. The Maureen. So, this is the text. The minstrel boy will return, we pray. When we hear the news, we all will cheer it. The minstrel boy will return one day, torn perhaps in body, but not in spirit. Then may he play on his harp in peace, in a world such as heaven intended. For all the bitterness of man must cease, and every battle must be ended. So that's pretty. That gets to me just reading that. And I'm not quite sure. Torn perhaps in body, but not in spirit. And I don't know if that's a reference to he actually passed away. He actually died, because he says in a world such as heaven intended. Talks of playing his harp in peace. So, what do you all think of that text there? I think it's pretty interesting. And you can see why they would be singing that kind of stuff during wartime. Yeah. Curious what Minstrel Boy meant to them. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the Minstrel Boy to the war is gone. And then there's another text here. I don't know if it's a different verse, but the Minstrel Boy to war is gone. In the rank of death you'll find him. That gives another hint at what happened there. His father's sword he had girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. Land of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee, one sword at least thy rights shall guard, one faithful heart shall praise thee. So I believe that's a different verse of the Minstrel Boy. So let's see what the melody sounds like here. This is often, by the way, played by the bagpipes. Typically, there's a particular set that bagpipers often will play, and my family knows about this one. My two friends played that on the bagpipes. It's often played at funerals. Yes. So usually it'll be Scotland the Brave, Minstrel Boy, and Wings is the third one. It's sort of a trio of pieces that you'll often hear, especially in bagpipe parades and stuff like that. They go really well together. It's one of their sets. So here's what it sounds like on the piano. Feeling to it. Did you notice the similarity? You might not notice the similarity. It's pretty interesting. We have another spot where there's a C minor. That's sort of the highlight of the highlight. That's not a weight race. Highlight of the melody, the whole song. To all the world betrays thee. Well, we've heard that. Wait a minute. Last Rose of Summer. No rose is but to know. It's even the same uplifting three notes. Actually, four notes. So you gotta wonder about that, right? So that's sort of the highlight of that particular melodic material, I think. But if you disagree, I want to hear, right? We got 8 people watching now. Whoever's tuning in, hello. Greetings. So, yeah, as I said, you can imagine why this would be, it's somewhat uplifting. Again, we're kind of starting on the tonic after the upbeat. By the way, a fancy word for upbeat, or the appropriate word for upbeat, is actually anacrusis. Fun fact, anacrusis. So, high note is the E flat, and then resting back to the E flat. And then that's repeated. So again, this is sort of AABA form. The father's sword he had girded, and his wild harp slung behind him. So is this, it's about maybe a musician that really didn't want to go to war, right? If he's got his harp behind him. And then, land of song, said the warrior bard, till all the world betrays thee, right? All he wanted to do was just play his music and make the world a better place, and here he is stuck in the war, right? One sword least thy right shall guard, one faithful heart shall praise thee. Okay, so that's another one of the ones that that Thomas Moore set to music, to the melody of the Maureen. That's the Minstrel Boy. Again, that was sung often by Irish Americans who fought in the Civil War and World War One. Have you ever played this on the fiddle? I don't believe I played this on the fiddle, but maybe next year I'll play a wee bit on the fiddle. Or maybe I'll make a YouTube video playing that on the violin. That would be kind of fun. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit to, what is this here? This is another version. Oh, this was I was supposed to use this version of The Last Words of Summer because it's in a key that's easier for me to sing. Oh well. Wasted paper. I'll reuse it. Save a tree. Let's see. All right, we got Be Thou My Vision or Simple Gifts. I think let's look at Simple Gifts. So this one, very popular, used in a lot of different songs. It's also been used as, oh, Gina's comment. Yes, I like this a lot. So Minstrel Boy was a musician or entertainer. Yeah, I think, yeah, Minstrel Boy, yeah. So I'm guessing that that's what the song is about, the musician that was kind of forced to go to war and all that kind of stuff. Hope that never happens to me. I don't want to do that. Simple Gifts. Everybody knows this, hopefully. Beginning of Copland's Appalachian Spring, and at the end, that's such a wonderful piece where it's so expansive and there's all these different contrasting sections, and then finally you have just this. It gives me chills just thinking about it. I'll have to listen to it later. But all of a sudden, you hear Simple Gifts. And it really has that kind of a wonderful, almost Americana feeling to it, folksy feeling to it. But there's something about how he puts it at the end of the piece of music. You're expecting maybe he's going to have this big climactic thing. But it's almost like this... I got to do a Musings on Appalachian Spring. That's what I got to do. I'm trying to find the words here. I'm thinking, you're not going to find the words. You're going to be talking about it for 20 minutes. We'll save that for another time. Yes, I want to make sure we get to all our music today. So, obviously, Copland uses Simple Gifts. It's also used very often for The Lord of the Dance is another version of it. Different text, of course. And that one's about Easter, right? And often a lot of churches will sing that around Easter time, on Easter morning, things like that. So the tune itself was by an elder, Joseph Brackett, born in 1797, died in 1882, and it was written in 1848. He was actually born in Maine, and he joined the Shakers up in Maine, Gorham, Maine. Apparently his father's farm helped to form the nucleus of a new Shaker settlement. And it was actually this tune was not really well known at all. Outside of the Shaker communities, of course, because that's they sang that until Copland composed it and performed the Appalachian Spring in 1944. It's a one-verse song. There aren't multiple verses of it, which is a little unusual, right? If you look at a hymnal, my goodness, sometimes there's 6 or 7 verses in there. And didn't you do variations on Simple Gifts? I did do variations on Simple Gifts. That was actually the first YouTube video that I uploaded. Was my variations on Simple Gifts. I'm pretty happy about that piece. It's a lot of fun. So the verse, "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be, and when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right." I love that text, especially, "'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free." There's a lot of freedom and simplicity when you can enjoy the simple things in life. I think there's a lot of freedom in that. And 'tis the gift. It's a gift too, right? That's all we really have is right now. It's a gift. And if we can enjoy that gift, that's hard to do sometimes, especially this day and age, just to enjoy, okay, I'm here, I've got a lot going for me, This is good. We're very fortunate. So, let's see. How does that match up with the melody? Let's see what's going on with our melody. it starts again with. Notice a lot of songs start with an upbeat, or songs or pieces of music start with an upbeat or an anacrusis. Remember that one? It's often on the 5. So 5 is the dominant of F. Because F is 1, go up 5 steps, that's 5, that's C, that's your dominant. For all you theory fans out there. So 'tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. Now that fits in with the text pretty well. 'Tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. So coming down where we ought to be. Nice little text painting there. And when we find ourselves in the place just right. And I like how there's that group of the 3 quarter notes there. Place just right. Because it's in, it's not, there's no syncopation, there's no extra motion. It's just place just right. Has a sense of feeling grounded. Place just right to be in the valley of love and delight. We resolve to F, okay, and then our refrain actually stays in F. And this is the first half note that we've had, so there's a feeling of just slight expansion to it. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, then we shouldn't be ashamed, okay? And we're just using basically 1 and 5 chords, right? Nothing too complicated, nothing too complex. To bow and to bend, then we shouldn't be ashamed. And now he's going to repeat that half note, expansive feeling, to turn, turn, will be our delight, till turning, turning, we come round right. And similar with the rhythm, how we had place just right, now we have turning, turning, we come round right. So these repetitive notes at the end make sense. If we're turning, turning, and finally we are right where we're supposed to be. So that's kind of a nice text painting feature as well for that. So let's see, I'll sing the whole thing together. I don't think there's anything else. You know, Amazing Grace and Loch Lomond and Simple Gifts all start pretty much the same. Amazing Grace with that upbeat there. Yeah, splendid explanation. Oh, I'm glad. I enjoy talking about the music. It really, it's a delightful tune. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. And that's the thing that strikes me out. So many tunes, folk tunes, hymn tunes, it's using traditional harmony, but coming up with always something unique. And you know, I remember having this discussion once with one of my teachers a long time ago at Peabody. He said, "Well, you got to do something different because everything's been done before with the tonal system." And I don't like that. It doesn't make sense to me. And to me, it's almost like saying, well, the English language, that's all been done before, so don't bother writing any new poetry or any new books or any new epic poems or, you know, sentences or whatever. So I don't like that comparison. It doesn't make much sense. And, you know, we think about Western music is based off of physics, and it goes way back to Pythagoras, right? The overtone series. If you're right here, you could hear all the overtones. And anyway, maybe I'll do a music musings on Pythagoras. Maybe I'll get a physicist in here to talk about it. They're better at talking about that stuff than I am, but anyway, there's a lot of interesting thing there. That's why music is not just an art form. It's a science. It's a type of math. There's so many things that music is. All right, that was too much of an excursion, Jen. Get back on track. All right, we're gonna sing Simple Gifts here. Feel free to sing along. I wish I could hear you all singing. That would be awesome. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn, turn will be our delight, till turning, turning we come round right. Delightful, delightful, delightful. Just as a side note, the well-known English version of the Lord of the Dance was written by Sidney Carter. Apparently that wasn't published until 1963. So that's not that long ago, 1963. So that's a fun fact about that one. Sidney Carter was his name. Alrighty, we're going to move right ahead to another hymn type, Be Thou My Vision. Now this one is really, I think, quite old. The words themselves are based off of a Middle Irish poem often attributed to the 6th century, get that, the 6th century Irish poet Dalal Forgaill, although they said it's probably later after that. And it's a lorica, which is sort of a type of prayer for protection. There's a really famous St. Patrick's breastplate. That's a lorica. It's a prayer for protection. They say they go back a long time. It's commonly sung to the Irish folk tune, noted as, it'll say Slane and Slane in church hymnals. And Dalal, so apparently he was murdered by pirates. This is the sort of the legend or whatever. In AD 598, and then his head was thrown into the sea. Lovely image. Later recovered and miraculously reunited with his body. So that's kind of interesting. The word Dalan means little blind one because he apparently was studying so much that he lost his eyesight. So that's kind of interesting too. Fun fact. Do you think because the Irish were such a grounded Gregorian peoples that their music was simple and grounded? I think that might very well be. Yeah, I think that they were, people of the earth, right? So that could very well be, yeah. So this tune goes back a really long time. It's the English version is translated by Eleanor Hull, and that was published in 1912. The English version here. But again, we have to keep in mind that there's all this oral tradition that we don't know a whole lot about. So I always think that's fascinating. I think about, maybe it's something that, oh yeah, I remember great grandpa saying that to me, or we used to sit by the fire and, my mom used to sing this while she was cooking, or maybe it was a lullaby. So I'm just fascinated by that history. So if you have any tunes that maybe you heard from your parents or grandparents, write them down, right? Or send me a recording, I'll write them down. Actually, no, I got one story about that, and I'll get to the music here. One of my friends at Peabody years ago, her grandmother found a recording of, I got it backwards. She found a manuscript, so this is the other way around. She found a manuscript of something that the relative wrote and said, my mom's never heard this before, it would be a great present, could you just play it? And it wasn't finished, so I said, well, it's not finished, do you want me to sort of finish it, the piece of music? Oh yeah, that's fine. But she had never heard it before, and now she had a recording of this piece. So that was kind of cool. I thought that was really neat. Does the word slain have a meaning? I actually don't know the question to that. I didn't do enough research. Yeah. I'm not sure why it's called that. That's a really good question. I'm going to have to look that up, Gina, and I'm going to get back to you on that one. Too-Ra-Loora-Loora, not sure of the spelling. We'll do that one in a minute here too, yes. Or maybe not a minute or two. All right, so here's what Be Thou My Vision sounds like. Lovely, and the text for at least the first verse anyways. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought, by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my light. There are a few more of these verses, they're beautiful, they really are. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word, I ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son, thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Be thou my battle shield, sword for the fight. Be thou my dignity, thou my delight. Thou my soul's shelter, thou my high tower. Raise thou my heavenward, O power of my power. It's almost like a modern day psalm, if you will, in a way. You got that backwards, I think. So it's beautiful, the text, and definitely worth looking at and taking in all the text. And of course, in combination with the melody, really beautiful. Let's take a look at the melody. Who knows that scale? That is the pentatonic scale, which is one of the most universal scales. We're not just talking about Western music, Eastern music. It's one of the most universal scales that's used. In fact, the Jesus loves me, yes I know, for the Bible tells me so. That's a pentatonic scale. A few other famous pieces are in the pentatonic mode. So it's only 5 notes, so it's a little easier to sing maybe than a 8-note scale. So that's what it uses there. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Not be too hasty, be save thou my heart. Thou my best thought, by day or by night. Waking and sleeping, thy presence my light. So pretty simple, not a whole lot of complexity with the rhythm, so it's very easy to sing. It doesn't go up too high, pretty much stays within an octave, a little more than an octave, I suppose. 9, 10, 11 steps, 12 steps, give or take, a few half steps there. It has a rocking feeling to it. I think that's because of the rhythm in combination with the ups and the downs. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart. Has a nice spaces for the breathing room after Lord of my heart. Not be all else thee, be save thou my heart. So you sort of have this balancing act between going up and going down. Thou my best thought. And that's probably the most motion that we have with groups of 2 eighth notes. Now it's the second and third beats have motion. Anytime you have motion on the second and third beats, we're leading to beat 1. So sailing into beat 1 is what I like to call that. Thou my best thought, by day or by night. And I like that by day. Is that's now you guys know I like to look into stuff. So is that the sun rising? I'm probably overthinking it, but I like the idea. By day or by night. By night, heads on the pillow, right? Going down, and then waking or sleeping. Again, sense of downward. Waking goes up. Waking or sleeping. Right? Thy presence, my light. And then I love at the end, presence, thy light. So again, a sense of being settled, right? Presence, my light. My presence, my light. So a feeling of being settled. I just said that, I repeated myself. But I think you get the idea there with that. It's a beautiful melody. Yes, the pastor at my church, it's his favorite tune. Anytime we play that, he'll comment on it. Says, oh, that's my favorite tune. Well, he's also Irish, so that might have something to do with that. Oh, it's lovely. It's lovely. Be thou my vision. Yeah. And I think the text all by itself makes a lovely poem. I need to work on my vocabulary. Lovely poem, delicious poem. I don't know. All right, we're going to switch gears here to a little lullaby, an Irish lullaby. Now this one, kind of written later. This is not like a traditional Irish tune per se. So Too-Ra-Loora-Loora, that's an Irish lullaby. The music was written, if anybody knows the movie Going My Way, about these 2 Irish Catholic priests. Really beautiful movie. Got Bing Crosby in it. He sings it at a certain point. That was released in 1944. It was sort of forgotten for a while. It actually came out by it was called Shamin Du, which means black-haired Jimmy or dark Jimmy, and it was from a play from the Tin Pan Alley, right? So Tin Pan used to be in reference to like it was almost seemed like a derogatory thing for like a really out of tune honky-tonk piano. So this was actually written for that play, Shamin Du, in 1913, and the singer who sang it was Chauncey Olcott. And he took it to the studio and said, I want to record this piece, I really like it. And it actually peaked #1 on the music charts. It was really, really popular for a while, and then it kind of left the scene and then came back thanks to Bing Crosby in Going My Way. And then that one actually sold over 1 million copies. And this is a while ago. We're not talking about, hit #1 on Spotify or whatever. It was released as a single, and it sold over 1 million copies and peaked at #4 on the music charts. How cool is that? So that's just a little history behind Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. This is also one of my grandma's favorite tunes, so it holds a special place in my heart for sure. And I think, let's see, it also uses that pentatonic scale, so it has that folksy flavor to it. There's an alliteration for you. And the refrain has those words, Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. All right, let's see what we got here. I'll try to sing and play here. Over in Killarney, gets me every time. I'm trying not to cry over here, you know. Music is powerful stuff. So why does it feel folksy? One thing is there's not a whole lot of harmonic material going on there. Goes to the minor, relative minor. We have F major, relative minor is down 3 half steps. And now I teach that to my students. I say major down to minor. Okay, so perhaps there's a little text painting. The text for that is right over in Killarney many years ago. So it has this feeling like it's a long time ago, kind of sad, right? The second verse, often dreams I wander to that cot again. So again, thinking about something in the distance. Perhaps that's why the composer chose to go to a minor key there, and then use the same sort of musical material. My mother sang a song to me in tones so sweet and low. You have a dominant 7th chord there, so it has a feeling of anticipation. Back to F major, just a simple little to-do in her good old Irish way. And again, the text for that one, the first verse is her good old Irish way. The second is to as in days of yore. So again, the text that's used in the minor key, I think, is appropriate. When she's, and I love this part. When she used to rock me fast asleep. The rhythm, yum, da-dum, 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 right? Feeling a rocking motion there. Used to rock me fast asleep outside the cabin door. And then our refrain is, of course, the Too-Ra-Loora-Loora, Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. And that's based off of the verse. It starts off like the verse, Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. And then this part's a little different, though. We have a little climax at Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. And then holding that up there, Too-Ra-Loora-Loora, coming back down, hush, now don't you cry. And I will say that there's a little more chromaticism in this. It's not totally the pentatonic scale, and I should point that out. Otherwise, I'm going to have to say, oh, that's wrong. The scene at the end where the elderly priest has his mother visit. Oh, I forgot that I forgot. Yeah, the elderly mother visits at the end. She's got to be like in her hundreds, right? Because the old priest is not that young, right? I'd forgotten that scene at the end. Oh, it's lovely. It is a tearjerker. So there's a little more chromaticism here, right? Hush, now don't you cry. So that's what maybe makes it slightly more modern, you might say. Modern in 1920s, is that what we said? Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. Again, here more chromatic. Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. Right? Climax and then resolve. Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. And then instead of coming down, it actually goes up at the end. That's an Irish lullaby. And that's the highest note we have, is that G. Irish lullaby. So it's lovely, and I think the chromaticism adds a little extra folksy spice to it or something like that. So that's an Irish lullaby, Too-Ra-Loora-Loora. All right, I think we'll end with, should we end with Loch Lomond? Let's end with Loch Lomond. We'll save Old Lang Syne for another time. Let's see. I think everybody knows this one. Again, this one is using the pentatonic scale, everybody. All right, Loch Lomond. So this is famous. I think one reason it's famous is that Loch Lomond is a famous location in Scotland for many reasons, but I think this is one of them because it's such a great song. So a little bit of historical stuff on this. I won't talk too much about it. John Purser, he wrote in a work in 1992, Scotland's Music, he says that the event commemorates Jacobite armies' return from their most southerly point derby in England to Carlisle in 1745. That was his claim about where that came from. I'm not an expert on Scottish music, so in a historical context, so maybe that's true, I don't know, but I thought I would report that to you guys. He says, though the tune is a variant of an earlier work called The Bonnie Hose of Ireland, and also has a link between the tune of the equally venerable The Lowlands of Holland. So that's, again, is it a variation of one of those songs? I don't know. I'm certain that there's definitely probably a long oral tradition, however, for this one. Let's take a look at the text. Water's a good thing. By in bonny banks and by on bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before ye, for me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. So of course we know the reference to, oh, you'll take the high road, I'll take the low road. Someone's in heaven already, hopefully in heaven. And someone's taking the low road, but they'll be in Scotland before you. So it's a sad song, but it's also a little happy. Hopefully they'll be reunited at a certain point, right? Let's look at the melody. That's your verse, right? So, it's, again, fairly simple melody. That's sort of your first phrase. The sun shines bright on Loch Lomond. Notice that actually quite a few of the songs that we've looked at, there aren't too many half notes, too many stopping places on Loch Lomond. And of course that's the title of the song, Loch Lomond, so it makes sense that there would be a little bit longer note to emphasize that. On Loch Lomond, for me and my true love will never meet again. Okay, that's both in a minor key, so that matches the text. Me and my true love will never meet again. But then it goes back to major, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. So it's sad, but then it's like, well, we won't meet on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. But then here we go. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before you. That's kind of sad. D minor, A minor. For me and my true love will never meet again. He's repeating that phrase, me and my true love will never meet again. But then he repeats this phrase as well. On the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. So quite a few of the phrases he does repeat. Text paints them, puts them differently melodically as well. Any comments on this one so far? Wow, we are just zooming. I can't believe it's almost 7:30 here. My goodness. Well, thanks for sticking around for as long as you have. I hope I'm not boring you here. I'm really enjoying talking about all these lovely melodies. So a lot of emphasis on F, right, the tonal center of the piece, but then we also have, I'd say a little bit more than some of the other songs that we looked at today, a little more emphasis on the minor modes. Let's look at the other verses. The last verse is really sweet. The wee birdies sing and the wildflowers spring, and in sunshine the waters are sleeping. But the broken heart, it kens nae second spring, though woeful may cease frae their greeting. I'm not exactly sure if I'm saying that right, because it's the kind of the Scottish way of writing certain things I don't quite understand. But I like the reference to the birdies and the flowers and the sunshine, and the water is sleeping. It's kind of interesting. In the sunshine, the waters are sleeping. Beautifully written. Let's see. Well, I'll sing through the whole thing here. I'm sure you probably can sing along with me here. By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland before you. For me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, I like that tune. Very good. My voice is starting to give out, folks. Also, my allergies have been acting up a little bit lately. It got warm and then it got cold again. The world would make an interesting choice for a. Oh, this would make an interesting choice for a variation on compositions. You know, I actually have a set of variations at Loch Lomond that I started, but unfortunately, like a lot of compositions I have, they remain started and not finished. So that's one thing I need to work on this year in 2022, I think. Uplifting and enjoyable. Well, I am so glad. I think folk music is. Sometimes people look down on it. This, oh, that's folk music, as if it's like, you know, it's not as good as like classical music or whatever. Hey, if it's good enough for Beethoven, it's good enough for me, right? I mean, obviously Beethoven was not. I'm not doing that. I don't think he would just do it for the money, but I think it's so important to go back to a lot of these traditional melodies and things that we have and keep them alive. Especially if it's the culture that you're from. Like I'm sort of a European mixed breed, right? I got Scottish, Irish, English, French. There's it's all kinds of different stuff in there. So I think it's good to kind of go back to your roots and study up and do a little research on some of that great music, and to be able to talk about it and articulate it is also a fun thing to do, which is another reason why I love doing these. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? One more piece. This was on my YouTube channel. I just released it on St. Patrick's Day, but I wrote a little Irish blessing arrangement. It's really simple. It's only 4 lines. So I'll play that for you. I've always loved the Irish blessing, the text to that. You can look on my most recent video, but this is a special performance just for all of you. I'm not going to try to play violin, piano, and sing at the same time. So that's my little Irish wish and blessing for all of you. Hope that, like the tune says, may the rains fall soft upon your fields, and may God hold you in the palm of his hand. I love the imagery, so beautiful with all that. So that's my final good night here for today. And is that smiling face? Okay, good. I was looking, I was like, are those crying faces? Well, maybe it's good cries. Good crying is good. Good tears, right? All right, everybody. Much love to all of you, and thank you for tuning in. And keep hoping and praying for my hand. I appreciate that. And I think we had a great time today. I know I had a great time.